Hey,
Action.
we're back. Action. Hey, we're here minus the Stewart. Last week was Mr. Stewart. Hey, that was a great show.
Yeah. Well,
That
I was
that was
talking to
so
Stuart.
engaged. We could have done 2 hours easily if I didn't have other meetings. Man.
What we need to do is just plan on having Stuart at least once a quarter
I think so.
because that was fun.
That was fun. More importantly, we got into some very heady issues and stuff.
We did. We did.
And so I did something called the Sagetti Summit yesterday. I was in Austin, and it's one of those kind of things. See, now I'm at a different level now. It's like, yeah, so I might still be a little light blue collarish and stuff, but I'm actually getting a little bit of the, moving up there in the world. We've always been talking to sea level for the longest time.
Right.
It's it's nothing new necessarily, but now I'm more official, right? So I'm not like, hey, we brought a guy from the trenches to talk to you. No,
Right.
now I'm like, well, this guy was in the trenches, but
Now
he's
you're
talking to you
leading
because
the conversation.
he's the one that's actually supposed to talk to you now, because
instead of kind of following around and talking to people, people are coming to you. That's great. That's awesome.
And so in this case, though, so I go to a conference. So like Sagetti held it. It's the Sagetti Summit 2022. You can actually look it up and stuff. And it is an invite, and it's oddly enough, it's not oddly, it's actually appropriately sponsored by AWS and a few other of our friendly friends that we know. So Amazon was there, for example. So when I talk low code over there, I can't talk low code the Microsoft way. Well, I could, but I have to talk it at the proper level, at the level for these folks that are going to be there. So we have high level folks. There's high level folks that are out there. And they were like learning about the metaverse and all this great stuff. They were going deep in technology. I couldn't stay because I have work, but I gave a talk. Right.
Nice.
So, but here was the thing that came out of this, and it was like some of the stuff that Stuart brought up was being brought up because we have folks that work at that level where there's experimental work, AI work going on. They were talking about like a scientific institute in Sweden where they have something submerged at the bottom of the ocean where they're taking readings and getting data. And remember how we were talking with Stuart about biased data and all that stuff? All that all of a sudden was in this one guy's talk. It's like, oh my God, if Stuart was here, these guys would be like, so buddy talking about exactly the same topics. But then it makes sense. It's like, because he says, the guy goes like, this is all possible because now we have, what is it? Everybody, the cloud.
The cloud, exactly. The cloud,
yes. Why is this all possible? A lot of things that before, and here's the thing. I wanted to make this very big point. People keep saying, yeah, we did this before. See how that went. We did this before. See how that went. I said, yeah, what's the difference between now and then? The cloud, right? And sometimes some people ask that. It's like, well, how come other places or other things or other times this wasn't possible? You have to find, like with any problem, find out what's different between this. Remember, hey, I do this all the time, and suddenly it broke. What do we say? Well, what has changed, right?
What's changed?
Exactly. First, so this is we're going to start off the show with troubleshooting tips. First troubleshooting tip is find out what the heck has changed, because something did. Deny it all you want, but something has changed. The less denial you have, the sooner you're going to get to the solution to your problem. Because if you're going to deny nothing has changed, it's exactly the same thing that I'm doing. It's like, well, the best robots, and see, here's the thing about computers. Computers are not going to decide, at least not yet, that I don't feel like working for you today. Computers are not, they're truly not emotional. Even if you program emotion, that itself is a freaking program that's going to react in exactly the same way no matter what. Well, sometimes it's random. I can put a random thing in there, but guess what? A random number is, and actually it's a fixed thing.
Coming from, it's coming from a formula, which is a program.
Larry, is there such thing as true randomness in computing technology where something can be absolutely not, I mean, I can put math to predict it. It may take a million years, but I can still put math to predict it. Isn't that what mining and all that stuff is all about?
Yeah. So the way that we cheat random, and if you do if you install some of the software that you install, especially like the I think it's OpenSSH, will ask you to roll your mouse around a little bit, and what they're doing is they're using that external to set a seed.
A seed.
And so you really don't have true random.
Glossary term number one, the
What
seed.
you have is you have a random seed or an externally generated seed that can then give you something in a true random space. And so,
Yes.
but you're always going to have that starting point. And if you know that starting point, you know where your
Exactly.
random numbers are
If I have the seed, I can go ahead and recreate it, because if I have the formula and everything else, it can be exactly recreated. There's no such thing as like I have exactly everything in the exact same circumstance, but something different happens.
So
In nature, and even in nature, you know what? I really do believe this. Even in nature, when they say, well, something will happen, that's because we don't know enough. We don't have in our hands the very specific variables to go down to the nitty bitty gritty to say that this is going to happen. Is there like some sort of like super being that's going to say, I'm going to now go this way, or have a plan for you? It's that one.
So if you want to see something really cool, check out some of the speed runners on the older games, because the speed runners on the older games know, based on the way a screen loads, what the random seed is, because they've gone through the code. Right? Speed running games, and they will do certain steps to reset the random seed, or actually to use up some of the random numbers so they get into a random space that they know. And that's a completely different topic for a different day. It's really cool. And you're absolutely right, though. We are standing on the shoulders of giants, right? I mean, that we always come back to that. But
yes,
right now with the cloud, you have virtually unlimited compute. You have virtually unlimited storage.
Well, let's just say all you need is available. If you can get it, that's different. Or pay for it. You can afford it.
But that opens us up to a new type of computing that we didn't have before. And you're right, things that 10 years ago didn't work,
yes,
now are commonplace. So
they were talking about now. So now that we have that, so here's the thing: you have all that.
Is that are cars able to self-drive because we have better sensors or better software? No, we have more compute.
That's right.
And it's really cool.
So and we have more compute, but even then, it's still not enough, as it turns out. It's still not enough. So I'll see in innovations like so-called quantum computing. Quantum computing was one of those, like when it was coming out early, was like, oh, I really want to get into that. But I'm like, well, it's really hard because it's purely in that theory area. It's like, how do I apply it to what I'm doing? It's like, well, there's not much you can really do unless you're there in that space. But when I started looking at what that's doing, it's like some of the concepts that they're talking about. It's like, well, how do you apply the concepts to what you're doing? So, well, you're going to apply the concept to say, here's what's possible or what might be possible. So if you're trying to future-proof what you're doing, what if this happened? And sometimes you ever create a program that somehow was too fast. It's like, hey, I made this thing work, and then, oh my God, it's too fast. Now I got to put in some wait time on purpose because it's going too fast.
Right.
Workflows especially.
If I were entering college today,
yep,
and and had knowledge, I would go into quantum computing because it's slow, but it's getting up to the point that it's going to reach that tipping point and become ubiquitous.
Yes.
And it might be 4 years, it might be 6 years. You might need to wait around and get a master's or a PhD, but now's the time to get in as low a level.
Now is the time. If you're young enough, now is the time doing that. Absolutely, you have all the time. Look at us over here at our age over here. Back in the day, whatever they came up with then is now here, all in its glory, because it came back out there. We were just fine. 1 second, please.
No worries.
This is a weird call. Oh, this one I have to let go. Hold on. It was my mom's birthday. She just had her pilgrimage. She went down she took a long trip, let's just say, here in the United States. She's going to be she's just turned 88. So she's got the double eights.
Double eights? Yes.
She got the double eights. She still drives. She's like the Uber to her friends still. Go mom and all that. And looks like there's still well-wishers calling until now from all kinds of places in the world.
Very cool.
And they're calling my phone. Anyways, so diversion. I was going to go into like the stuff now for the quantum computing, where I was looking at something where it said, well, we've got teleportation working. I'm like, what? What is this?
Right.
This thing? Teleportation? And now imagine this, right? So data has to go from here to there, and you have that fiber and everything else that goes there. What if that data does the Star Trek thing and appears pretty much instantly? It's like, hold on a second, but we know that the limit of when you're going through like a fiber, you're going through at the speed of light, and that's a speed limit that supposedly can't be broken. But if you have this concept that I teleport you here and you appear there instantly,
yes,
you've essentially just broke the rule of the speed of light.
Well,
but it's data though. It's not
quantum entanglement is, strange actions at a distance.
Strange actions at a distance.
We've known that for a while, and they've done a lot of work with quantum entanglement, so that you entangle two objects, you move them.
Yes.
You change the spin on one electron, and the other one changes as well.
Yes, no matter how far they are, supposedly.
And
yes.
We are, like I said, now's a great time to be working in that quantum computing realm.
Let me tell you how that helps. An example where like you're waiting, the so-called latency period and stuff, all of a sudden that's literally eliminated.
Right.
And when they say real time, because even physical controls on airplanes and everything else, there's going to be that tiny, but because everything's super fast, you don't really notice, piece. If such technology exists, real time is absolutely real time, which means almost anything can change almost at will. Is it too quickly or not? Maybe exactly when it should happen.
Well, I mean, think about what that would do for our space. And we talked last week about, so this Wednesday I actually went to the Neil deGrasse Tyson meeting, the Isaac Asimov meeting on space.
Yes, that's right.
All of that.
Talk about that.
Awesome, by the way.
Oh man, I gotta go check that.
Yeah, you gotta go watch the
video for that. Yep.
But one of the things that we talk about with space is the fact that we need to have people there. We need to have humans there because we need to, have that control loop. If you look at Mars and you look at how long it takes a signal to get from the Earth to Mars, there's a reason that the machines that we put there have to be smart.
Yep.
Well, if you can reduce that latency or eliminate that latency, they don't have to be smart anymore.
That's true.
You don't have to,
or as smart. Exactly.
Well, they don't have to be as smart. Yes, we can have them fully there, and it's interesting.
Yeah. So imagine this now. Now you have folks in Mars, and remember that communication gap. Suddenly, that gap goes away.
That gap completely goes away.
Well, yes. But does that mean that it can be translated from data into other things?
Well, printing. I mean, we have. We're a long way from beam me up, Scotty, but we are making steps every day.
Yes. So, and this is like literally in our purview. That's looking. That's just like whoa, it's heady stuff, right? But this is what I was talking about with the going back to the Sogeti Summit where they were talking about the heavy data and where the stuff that we talked about with Stuart, where we talked about the ethical aspects of what was going on. So in this particular case, they're gathering data for climate change and the oceans and everything else. They were looking at that kind of information. So we talked about, well, if there's bias in there, wouldn't that literally affect whether or not there's going to be funding for X or Y because the funding happens? And the funding for X and Y could mean fish die over there or fish live over there. I mean, could that happen? And everything else.
Yeah, there, eventually you get to real money.
But here's what it came out of that one. What came out about it's like, well, it's what Stuart was talking about, we were just talking amongst ourselves. So it turns out that people are actually thinking about this at the so-called corporate, the cold corporate level, as they say. Oh, those cold corporate types. What are they? They're not there. They're just worried about their profits and all that. Well, here's the thing that I'm noticing these days: that the so-called corporate consciousness, I guess, is, for lack of a better term, I'm not going to say it's like the specific humans that are running them are doing ethical or not ethical or anything to things. Right. But it seems like as an organization, as an organism, that corporations that have a sort of like little bit of a life of their own for, how do we say it? Their ethics, their morals, their vision.
in this
It actually happened.
in this age of transparency, right?
Yes.
Of global just information overload, it's really easy for a corporation to make missteps and really hurt their bottom line. And
Yeah. Sure.
corporations, the whole idea of a corporation is that they're supposed to be guarding and maintaining and increasing shareholder wealth. And
Yes.
what we've done as a society is we've started putting pressure on corporations to be ethical.
Indeed.
And in order for them to guard their bottom line, they're having to at least, it's sort of like the artificial intelligence. Is it really intelligent? So is a corporation really ethical, or is it just
Hmm.
pretending to be well enough that we can't tell?
That right.
And
Well,
that's okay.
in some cases, though, the calculation has come into play. We're like, actually, this is good for us. To be good is good. So remember, like at the old from the Wall Street movies, like greed is good. Remember that one? It's like, well, here's the thing. Charity is good. It's like, well, charity has not really paid the bills, or has it? Do you really know? Your greed is, greed is good for what? The short term. You just had your short term. Does that really help you? Because later on, you have nothing. It's like if your shareholders are there for the overnight and go away, that's on fine and well, but that catches up. There's entropy. It's entropy. Things will, if you keep like chewing on something and just, even if you're just chewing a little bits of it, and but it keeps growing on its own. But then all of a sudden, more people keep chewing, and more people kept doing stuff. It's like it doesn't matter if you think you're being benevolent because it's okay, or I'm not causing any harm for my little thing. Like the story of the Lorax. I'm not causing any harm. It's just a few trees over here until the last one goes and it's snapped off. It's like, okay, well, you thought you weren't because you thought you were having small,
Right.
but all of a sudden, your success brought what with it. It brought scale to the point where that scale is now hurting you. You've grown too fat, sir. You're too big. You're going to have a heart attack. You're going to have a heart attack. If you're in Boston, you have a heart attack.
You look at metal, right? Metal is strong. Metal is not brittle, but if you fatigue it, it will eventually break. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing this, a lot of these larger corporations that only think tactically rather than strategically are breaking. They're having problems.
This is true. Then we're seeing other corporations that are sort of like sometimes when I look at certain corporate decisions going on, I will tell you frankly, I'm not seeing as many like, what do they think they're doing questions as when lately it's been a lot of like, okay, these people are beginning to make more sense of late than not. And sometimes it'll sound like it's off the blue, like, why would that person or that entity want to do this under what are they thinking? And sometimes you might see some news articles that say, what are you thinking? But in some cases now I'm beginning to see, all right, I'm beginning to see the angle. Maybe it's because now I'm more open to like, okay, what are your ideas? Let's see what they are. Let's take your side.
Case in point, yesterday Broadcom bought VMware.
Oh my gosh, your favorite tools
for $61 billion. Like I said, billion here, a billion there. Eventually, you get to real money. So Broadcom is a hardware company, and they bought what really is a software company.
Exactly.
VMware is software. They bought Pivotal recently. VMware did.
That's right.
That's a service angle. Why would Broadcom buy VMware? What is their strategic?
What is their plan over here? Is it world domination or what is it? Yes.
See, but I think it's coming back to our show here. I think they're making a cloud play, and they're moving. They're trying to position themselves in a way to be a major player in the coming cloud revolution.
So this makes sense. Well, not just the coming. We're in the revolution. Yeah. We're just it's just a long going.
Let's not say revolution. Let's say evolution. Right? When the cloud moves from being centralized to back to being decentralized through edge computing.
We talked about that, right? On the edge computing stuff.
If you think about it, back in the day, back when I was in college, right? We had the VT100s and we had the big CMS machine, right? Mainframe.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went to PCs, and now we're back to cloud, and we're about to split back apart again.
Right. The
move
pieces,
towards edge.
the pieces have to go on. With the Mars problem, wow, we are ever able to circle back. This is a great thing. So the Mars problems, like you need to have the people, the latency to get it there. Well, guess what? We have the same issue here with these pieces. Would quantum computing all of a sudden bring it back? Perhaps, but for now, this is the solution to go. So Broadcom's being smart. They're essentially making sure that the cloud, the ideas, and a lot of cloud ideas and architecture stuff. We're talking about the Phi 9, the 12, and everything else. These ideas actually go beyond sometimes.
Yeah.
They transcend the thing that they're fixing. They go into other ideas. So imagine now taking that same thing that happens. It's great in the enterprise. Now imagine it translating to the edge or the devices and doing the same thing, deploying your changes in that particular way, managing your environment in the exact same way that you would manage something that's virtual in the cloud. The concept of, and that came up yesterday, the concept of like the digital twins. And they were showing this. They were showing BMW, and this is out. You guys can take a look at it. BMW essentially has like robot versions of their factories in a copy in the virtual world, the exact thing. So they can go and they can mimic, for example, how do workers work. They have robots that say, hey, when they bend this way and they bend that way, so they can literally recreate their lines on the fly to do that. And as soon as they do, it's the virtual thing. And then they let it run in the virtual world, like, fast forward. And then, it broke over here. Okay, let's rewind. Now the real thing will do something else, right?
Yeah.
But this is like, it's the twin, but it only works because of edge computing, because the stuff is right there to make it happen. Otherwise, it's not possible.
So, and back in the day, back when I was in college, I worked for a small company. I don't know if you've heard of it, called Federal Express.
They were tiny, yeah.
Company, and they revolutionized shipping because they changed the model from point to point to hub and spoke, right? So Federal Express brings all the packages into Memphis. They actually have more than one hub now, but they would bring all the packages into Memphis and then ship them all back out. And they reduced the overall number of miles traveled for the total of the packages by moving some packages farther. And that worked. But now we're seeing things change back again, where you have Amazon with a lot of warehouses locally, so they don't have to make that long haul travel. And it's the same thing that we're doing with computing.
The just-in-time model, where the AI figures out, like, so how come I can get, for example, like maybe batteries very quickly, or I ordered a new mouse, right? And it came to me in hours. It's like, well, hold on a second. Isn't this something
delivery?
What happened to supply chain? How did that happen in the supply chain area where I can get something like this? But then I asked for something a little more exotic, and that could take days, and it tell you might not get it for 2 weeks or something like that. Meanwhile, if I'm in California, ask for the same thing, but dude, I have it like right away.
So they're predictive models that put the right pieces in the warehouse, because they predict what people are going to buy. And so that mouse that you have, that you got in one day,
and in hours, literally in hours,
because they knew that you were going to be buying it, or they
and not just that. I had two new machines, and I wanted, because I followed Larry, said, get the Bluetooth, just stop plugging in USB. So I got two of them, right, and they both came like right away. There wasn't like, we only have in stock. And sometimes I remember the time when they used to be in stock or whatever. It came lickety split. It was there in an instant. We got my new laptop that I got. I ordered it like 2-3 days later. It came in. I said, where's the supply chain? Well, here's the thing though. In the ordering system, when it came up, what would be the first results that show up? Will be the AI saying, you know what I have in your area? This. I'm going to sort of promote it on the searches. So you're more likely to pick it, right? Because if you keep scrolling down to page 5 to find something that looks cooler that you like, and you select that, I'm going to tell you that's probably going to take 3 weeks to ship, or a month.
And that's the old magician's trick, right?
Yes.
The forcing the card. So they're behavioral.
Now we know who invented that. Wow.
Penn and Teller. Thank you.
There we go. their concept. So this makes sense, right? But and then and this is funny because even we had the big Build conference for Microsoft that went on this week. It's another virtual event, but Build now and we were someone like Andrew Connell was lamenting, our friendly friend from the original Cloud Talk Show of all times, best of all times, was saying there's not that many. There's a lot of too many low codey stuff going on over here. Not enough dev stuff. So, well, it's still dev technically speaking, but he does have a point. A lot of that stuff going on. So they came up with sayings like, we're trying to get this stuff out, and a lot of the devs because a lot of pro devs, I'm going to say pro, not professional. I'm going to say traditional devs, right? Because that's really the word. Are there at those courses saying like, well, this is great, but we need it to work in the traditional manner. We DevOps, we do this, we do that, and then the Microsoft folks will say, well, yeah, it's there, it does work. And so the question is like, well, yeah, we know, but your documentation is, let's just say, hasn't caught up in some cases. Well, there's the key. So, and then I said, well, my suggestion, like I went on the panels and I said, here's the thing. If I Google or wait a minute, if I Bing something, if I Bing something, and the first result I get is someone's blog ahead of docs.microsoft.com, you may have a search problem. Sorry, Jeff Foxworthy. So, and I was saying this for 3 days. All of a sudden, the new thing for Power Portals becomes Power Pages. Someone puts that in now in Bing, and the first thing that comes up is not only the docs, but everything about Power Pages. Like, because I was saying, Microsoft, you have Bing, put the fingers on the scales. If you're putting up documentation you want us to learn and be good at, it's your stuff. I know you like to be fair with everyone, but when it comes to your stuff and that's what it is, just do it. Put the fingers on the scales. And that's what they're doing with the selling stuff. The AI wants to promote itself. The AI has decided, I'm going to have more of this stock over there. Well, the AI is going to be like, well, in order to have the humans not be upset of my decision to make more of that stuff here, I'm going to make sure that the humans ordering from that area are going to see the stuff before anything else. And it's a win-win. I look good because I had the right stuff on hand. The customer is happy because they feel that they got something that they were looking for, and the humans don't turn me off because I made any mistakes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the chef's special at restaurants, right?
Yes.
What do we have too much of? What do we need to get rid of? What do we have the biggest margin on? It's the same type of deal.
This is the special today. Oh, this is what smells good. Or like sometimes what they can't do like in restaurants as easily as they could in virtuals. They have like someone pretending to like eating and just enjoying it, and you're looking at, hey, I'll have what they're having all the time. If you can do that in virtual world. If they could do that for real, all the time, and people be like, yeah, let's get more of that. Come on.
No, well, they can't do it necessarily in restaurants, but in bars, they have a lot of people that go in and make orders and.
Oh yeah, so like I'm going to have a Rafferty's friend, and they drinking. They're like walking commercials. They're like, yeah, this is the best drink ever. It's like, yeah, that guy keeps harping that drink. Well, can we have some of that? Yeah. Oh, the show Ratatouille, the movie on that one, where like all of a sudden people start seeing the person eating really well, and everyone wants to order that, and all of a sudden we got 100 orders for the whole thing because they had that. And it's not a ringer; they saw it. But hey, so that's actually an interesting idea, right? The ringer that goes in that says I like it. But I'm wondering if people have been doing that already. I know they're sort of. Are they doing it on purpose in the virtual world? Is it ethical? I know they do that for reviews, though. That's for sure. People, unfortunately, that's one of the, and they're trying to get better at it. Obviously, is reviews that are clearly not from the actual people. They're meant to like either push or to take a hit on something, and they're not done under the proper circumstances.
Right, influencers that are being paid. Yeah,
the influencer. Yes,
that's that's society. That's not cloud, though, right? Let's get back to cloud. What do we have good going on in cloud that we can chat about? Anything bad going on in cloud?
Besides the fact that the metaverse is being enabled, we're far away. That's the other thing I learned from the other one. Metaverse is still far away as we know it. So it was pretty good. I wish we can bring it up. The book is called Snow Crash from Neil Stevens back in the day. You probably, if you have that handy, that is apparently the book that named the metaverse as we know it.
Oh, love that.
And then they mentioned the movie Ready Player One.
Yes.
As if you want to see what the nirvana of where we're headed, those two resources are the ones to look at. So we probably want to see that one. There we go. Is this which one is this? The Oculus?
Yeah, I've got an Oculus.
The Oculus.
Got to play with it.
They were saying like the trends, like in about just a few years, in like a couple of years from now, about 10% of our time will be in the virtual world. 10% of our time. Or if you think about 10 people in a room, 9 out of 10 of them will be spending an hour in that virtual world per day. Per day?
Right.
What?
Well, but so 10 years ago, if we said that we were all going to be walking and we were going to be doing this on Zoom.
Oh, right? Yeah, that's right.
Cameras. We're gonna have these meetings and we're not actually physically gonna travel.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that big of a change.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not. I mean, so I'm loath to have my avatar with like no bottom, floating about when you're talking like they're trying to do. So by the way, here's just a quick note, cultural issue in the Philippines where I was living and where I grew up. There's a sort of mythical creature that's sort of like that's what they are. They have no bottom. I mean, they float around and they go and they're like the vampires of their area, and that's what they look like. It's like you know what? I don't think people are going to be freaked out when they start seeing that kind of thing going around. So maybe you may not want to do that. I think the virtual like avatars and everything else need to probably be a little bit more than like little Pokemons running around. Or whatever shape. Oh, I'm a cute cat or something walking around. I mean, it's great for the games and the kids and stuff, but for business or anything else, we need something. I believe we're going to need something less offensive to certain cultures.
I'm sorry, Raquel. Were you going to say something? I think we cut you off.
We saw you highlight.
Oh yeah. Sorry. My voice is way too loud on here. So I was gonna say about the virtual world thing. Nick and I also have an Oculus here. We would play it more. Well, for one, it makes him like just super dizzy. Two, like there isn't enough on there. Like there isn't enough games and everything. Like VR chat is very like social and everything. You can be whatever you want. You can talk to people. You could take an underwater ride and everything. There's like so many things for it, but it's not like consistent enough for people to just be on there. And then there's like that Facebook Meta universe thing or whatever.
Yes.
I'm not sure exactly how that works, but it seems like you have to buy your property on there, and that kind of
gosh. Remember I told you about NFTs being I was talking with Larry about the NFTs being like the one of the key supporters of the metaverse.
The world. Yeah.
So NFTs is like when you own real estate. So apparently, and there was an article out there where there actually is an insurance company for real estate in the virtual world because, something could happen to your property online. Someone might take it. Hey, that's a nice virtual property you got at the edge of that virtual world. Shame if something were to erase it or something.
And this is something that VR chat already has like established. Like it's not like realty or anything. You just have a personal space where you spawn into the game and you can change it. You can change the world code or whatever. You can make it whatever you want pretty much. As long as you can find it on there or know how to make it and put it in the game. And
so I'm finding out that they're also settling on NFTs, for example, things that you could put on your avatars. And people are paying literally thousands of dollars. You know who did this? Adidas. Adidas did this. They came up with NFTs for shoes. And here's the thing. They have an artist that's creating the shoes and doing different arts for it, right? So you have an NFT because you went to Adidas and then went to the virtual world and you bought that shoe. And you can put it on your avatar and then show it off and everything else. But here's the kicker. And no pun intended. Here's the kicker. It comes with like that little QR code, right? So you hit the QR code. That gives you the right, because you own that NFT, to go get it from the store, and the physical product will match what that is. And you know what? Because I own that NFT, I want my friend to have it or something like that. You have the license. they click on the QR code, you will get a royalty for them getting that shoe in a particular case because you own the NFT. Of course, Adidas makes all the money, but because you paid that thousands of dollars, because by the way, they raised $27 million, I heard, for their 27 million. Come on. And so that means there's people sitting around, tons of people sitting around with these shoes in the virtual world that can become real, and that every time they bring someone in, little money goes into their Bitcoin-y values for that. And of course, the value of those things, if they keep doing that, right, the values of those items will keep going up and up. So some shoes will have higher value, but it won't be like the Nike shoes that we have right now, a few $1,000s and stuff. No, we're talking millions now because this is Bitcoin-y type stuff.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought, Raquel, I told you probably want to create a few NFTs. Just saying. Just saying.
I'm still learning a lot about it. I don't know.
So look up the Adidas thing. Look up the Adidas thing and see what they did. So it did something like Nike has a virtual world apparently in Roblox, and it's apparently they get like 7 million unique visitors a month to the Adidas world. I said, hold on a second, just that alone, market idea, share, and everything else. What was the other one?
Roblox is crazy. Roblox
apparently is like all over the place. This is one of the major worlds. So I guess for the metaverse to happen, all of these worlds need to be connected. You need to be able to cross over. There's got to be standards and all that stuff. Short of that, though, in their spaces, right? So they have this stuff going. What was the other one? Fortnite. Fortnite turns out to be not just a gigantic world. So they'll have like major stars, and they'll have like millions of people attending their concerts. So look at that one over here, and that's a Fortnite case. And it's like, well, you have all these virtual concerts, and if you can imagine, if you're just making pennies in the dollar for those people to be in there, that's still massive money.
Right. It does add up.
It does add up. So what was the other one I saw? A Snoop Dogg apparently in one of the virtual worlds. There's some, by the way, that are what's called they work on.
Is he back to Snoop Dogg? I can't keep up.
I can't keep up. What's the word I'm looking for? Blockchain. There are some virtual worlds that are based on blockchain, which means they're not centralized at all. Right. Okay, we'll cover blockchain another time because that's another favorite topic of ours. But the idea over here is to be totally decentralized, and Snoop Dogg has apparently a place there like a clubhouse, and you could pay to get in it, and you will essentially be in the virtual world and partying with Snoop Dogg and doing Snoop Doggy things. I'm not going to say, but
Personally, I'm a bigger fan of AR, augmented reality, than I am VR.
Yes, but the HoloLens concept. The HoloLens. So if you think about remember Raquel was talking about being dizzy wearing the piece. The HoloLens concept is you put on the glasses, you can still see everything, you still have your perspective, but the virtual world comes to you around it. It forms around. And this is they were showing pictures of there's an elevator company. They did that where essentially they would wear like a HoloLens, and they would have in the system all these elevators. It could be elevators that are literally 100 years old. And in their office, using the HoloLens, they can go and play around, open it up, take it apart, and look for what could be wrong? It could be these parts. So they know before they even make a visit for the elevator fix, what parts they need, what they need to do, what they have to do. And they can play, they can practice. Take it out, put it in. No, don't do it that way. You're going to break the elevator and work it out.
All right.
Very cool.
Well, I do apologize. I am going to have to go.
It's that time. We were going as far as we could. Yeah.
Mobile notary on the way. By the way,
that's also going to be virtual one day. That'll be metaverse. You'll actually do your signing in the metaverse.
Come to the house, but rather than my wife and I going out and finding a notary, someone's going to come to the house here and notarize some papers. And
so they're beginning to realize that if we don't go to the house, they might make us for avatars out of us.
All right. Thanks all. And
this was a good show.
Good show.
We'll cover everything. Thanks so much, Raquel. Thank you much. We'll take us out. End credits.